Welcome back to Guided by Faith. This week we are talking about what it means to be a biblical godly man. We want to go so much further than just what is a man, to what does it mean to be a biblical godly man. We want to be the kind of men that know that we have what it takes, that know we're going in the right direction, that are a blessing to the world. We want to know the difference between what it means to be a boy and what it means to be a man. Just because somebody's an adult male does not mean that they're acting like a man, especially not like a godly man. And we recognize that we live in a culture that doesn't, even though like when you turn 18, you're technically an adult. When you turn 21, you become more of an adult because you can drink beer, which is a really weird thing to say that makes you an adult. We live in a generation where so many people are hyper dependent on their moms and dads, even in the late teenage years, the young adult years, and the middle adult years, for mom and dad to do basic baby things for them. We don't want to be like that. We want to know we have what it takes. Now, in cultures around the world, there was a very definitive time when the society stopped looking at you as a boy and started looking at you as a man. And each day this week, I've shared one of those rite of passage ceremonies. And I will tell you, most of these are so twisted, and I feel like don't really reflect the heart and character of God, but at least in this culture, they would know they have what it takes. Let me share one with you today. Fula, which I believe is a tribe in Africa. Young Fula boys must undergo a whipping battle in which they trade blows with another boy from a different tribe in order to become a man. The sticks that they use to whip each other have sharpened points and thorns all over them to maximize the pain they inflict. And both boys attempt to take the blows without wincing or showing any signs of weakness. The boy whom the observing crowd deems is the winner is considered the bravest and earns the right to become a man. So imagine that, young guys. The way that what if the way that our culture decided that you're a man is you stand just in your shorts, shirtless, in front of another young man, and you have basically these long briars covered in thorns, and you just continue to whip each other with them until one of you shows some kind of pain or deflection. Now, you in this culture, in the full culture, they know that they have what it takes to be a man. But I think the problem is this doesn't really prepare you for being a helpful man. All it does is show that you don't know, or you're brave, which is true. That's important. And that you can not show fear of pain. But that doesn't equip you for what the world needs. Like, we want to be godly men. We want to be the kind of people that heal a broken world with the love of Jesus and do hard things. So we definitely need to be brave, but we need to be more than just brave. So this week we talked about how a real, R-E-A-L, man rejects passivity, expects God's greater reward, accepts responsibility, and today the L is a real man leads courageously. A real man leads courageously. In Joshua chapter 1, verse 9, God says to Joshua, "Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go." And so what I love about this is when he says, be strong and courageous, don't be frightened, it's because Joshua is frightened. And I think what's important to know is leading courageously does not mean absence of fear. It does not mean absence of worry. It means that I am not going to be paralyzed by my fear. I'm going to step forward in bravery, and I'm going to do the right thing, even if there's going to be some short-term hurtful or harmful consequences. In Ephesians 5:25, Paul commands husbands, love your wives as Christ loved the church and gave himself up for her. And so I think this is really important. In the home, a godly man is a leader, but he's a servant leader. He's a leader that gives himself up. How did Jesus lead the church? Jesus got on the cross for the sake of the church. And so as a godly man, I want to be willing to sacrifice myself. I want to be willing to step out in leadership and take the blows for those around me and have courage and bravery. We want to be godly leaders. Now, remember, courage does not mean lack of fear. Courage means that fear doesn't have the final say. And if you are a young man, I want you to not, leading courageously is the opposite of passivity. So I want you to reject passivity. Don't stand back and wait for somebody else to do things. Whether that's menial things like chores in your house or picking up chairs at church, or whether that's confronting somebody who's being a bully, whether that's having a hard conversation, whether that's owning up to sin that you've had. Reject passivity. I want you to expect God's greater reward, that you might have to do short-term sacrifice, but God will reward you in the long term. Discipline now equals freedom later. Accept responsibility. So first off, own your sin, own your junk. And secondly, as God has equipped you, make right the world around you. Think about firefighters. They never set fires, but they're stepping in to put out everybody else's fires. That's accepting responsibility. And you want to be a firefighter in that way. You can't put out everybody's fires all over the place, but you want to use what you have for the benefit of others. And then doing all this, you're leading courageously. And when you will be a courageous servant leader, you make everybody around you safer and you make everybody around you better. And so as we finish out for today, we've got one more tomorrow. Ladies, if you're listening to this, I want you to think, who are the people in your life, whether they be young men, whether they be parents or older people, that exemplify the character qualities of a godly man. And a huge thing that you could do is name them and even tell them specifically, hey, I've been listening to this podcast talking about godly men. And when I listen to the description, you come to mind, and I just want to thank you for being a godly man in my life. Guys, as you're listening, I want you to do the same thing. I want you to think about who in your life exemplifies these qualities, and then what can you do to encourage them? Hey, thank you for being this example in my life. And then what can you do to emulate them? What is the next thing God's calling you to? If we do this, we will be so countercultural, because instead of boys running the world, we get to have godly men changing the world for the sake of the gospel and making us safer, better, freer, and more like Jesus. One more episode to close out the week, so we will talk to you tomorrow.